Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, I just wanted to say that I'm Percy and I've been tutoring people for about 8 years so far. And what I really look into is just how to optimize people's learning, whether that's through study tools or just general academic advice for certain courses. And so today I want to lean more into the study tools aspect of things. And I'm going to talk a lot about how to use AI for studying. And specifically on this video, we're going to dive into this new feature of Google called Google Notebook LM. Okay, so what you want to know about Google Notebook LM is that it's now an extension. It's another one of those apps that Google produces, just like Google Docs or Google Slides or one of those things. But Google Notebook LM, it specifically incorporates Google's Gemini AI to help you analyze documents. So when you go into new Google Notebook LM, and I can do demonstrations of this in future videos too, but today I just wanted to talk about it. When you go into Google Notebook LM, you open it and you see this feature where you can add notebooks, right? It says create a notebook and there's a little plus sign in this little sort of tab that you see. And these notebooks, I want you to think of these as folders on like a filing system. Like maybe like if you use a Mac, it's kind of like your Finder app, right? Where it stores all the files, right? Um, a notebook on Notebook LM is a folder. And then each notebook you can upload up to, well, for the unpaid plan, it's about 50 sources. But then for the paid pro plan, you can upload 300 sources to any one given notebook. Think about these sources as like the files that you would put in a folder, right? So let's just say I were a student of AP US history, right? And so I would, the reason I bring this example up is because Notebook LM is especially potent for classes that involve language and humanities and history. So classes that are just have a lot of written material and maybe some, visual diagrams explaining some of the concepts and trends. But think about being an AP US student, okay? So you create a notebook that says maybe it's about Unit 1 of AP US history, okay? So one notebook is Unit 1, another notebook is Unit 2, and so on, right? Let's dive into the Unit 1 notebook. Okay, so within this notebook, let's just say you have 112 different notes sources of, that relate to this unit. So maybe some of those are Google Docs, like maybe you were on your laptop taking notes. And I'd especially say it's really good to take them on Google Docs because these have really, really high compatibility with Notebook LM. But I don't know, maybe some of your sources are PowerPoint slides that you could convert into Google Slides, or maybe some of them are just PDFs, right? And maybe you took a picture of your handwritten notes too and scanned them into PDFs. So what you can do is you can upload these. Again, the unpaid version is 50, and then the paid version is about 300 per notebook. You upload these sources to this Unit 1 notebook. Okay. There's a chat bot in Google Notebook LM in this notebook, right? So there's a chat, but so there's one tab on the left. It shows you what your sources are. So it'll list all your sources that you uploaded. The middle tab has the chat bot that you can ask questions to. And then the tab on the right is more of a studio tab that gets into a podcasting and video generation feature. So just keep this in mind. So on the left is the resources, right? And now let's dive into the middle one, which is the chatbot. So with the chatbot, you can select by just clicking a check mark. You can select any amount of sources in that notebook that you want, right? So it could be, you could click the thing at the top that says select all sources, or you could just kind of, click any given configuration of sources that you have in there. And so let's just say you check 4 of the sources, right? And maybe they're talking about some particular thing in, colonialism in AP US history. You can ask the chatbot any question you want about those sources. You can give it commands, right? So you can say things like, please give me a chronological timeline of the significant events in this era, using these sources. Or you could ask it something like, okay, what are the major takeaways, or what changes occurred in the colonies through from this year to this year, or just really anything that may be relevant to AP practice questions that you have, or maybe your teacher's giving you some kind of practice FRQ or something that is open note. And basically, long story short, this sort of chatbot thing can be it's almost like your personal assistant for learning, right? And you can actually customize the chatbot. You can tell it to give you longer or shorter or just kind of default responses, or you can customize it in the sense where you can actually type it in. You can type in a customization saying like, oh, hey, I want you to act as a U.S. history expert and a tutor that helps guide me through the info. Or you could also say, I want you to act as a study friend that I'm studying with in a group or something, right? So you can almost give it a personality to help you study, and that gives it a way to convey the information to you that is maybe most effective for you. So it's a really cool thing. And I would say the best use case that I personally use in my day-to-day life when I'm learning something new is I use it to generate quiz questions for myself that I make myself answer without the help of AI. So I tell the AI chatbot to make the test questions. Then I just try to answer the questions myself. And then at the end, I just say, okay, now answer these questions. And then I just compare its responses to my responses to see where any discrepancies exist. So that's the middle tab, the chatbot, very helpful. The last tab on the right is going to have the AI podcast generator, and then it's also going to have a video generator. So what you can do is, let's just say you're driving around, or maybe you have to go on a long drive somewhere, or you want to take a walk and study at the same time. What you can do is you can select all the sources that you want to study, right? And you can go over to the podcast generator in the studio division and say, tell it to create a podcast. And again, you can customize, you can type in how you want the podcast to be done. You can say, focus on just the details, or focus on giving me the broader picture, right? You can type all this in, and you can also ask it to go long or short, right? So again, all that customizability, just like with the chatbot, is also there in the podcast generator. And another thing is, this is still kind of in beta form, but they're pretty much in the full form at this point, is you can interact with your podcast. So when the podcast is generated, you'll hear a male and a female voice talking and sort of hashing things out. And they're the ones kind of leading the podcast that you could listen to on your walk. But you can also interrupt the podcast. You can raise your hand. There's a button that you can press to do that. And you can ask the podcast voices questions, right? And they will adjust the podcast there on after that to answer your questions, almost as if you're interacting with them. And then the last feature that I really want to go over today, there's more detailed ones that I'll go over in the future, but another big one is you can generate almost like a video or a slideshow video, right? So if you wanted a more visual representation of what you're studying, and to kind of compare maybe some documents that don't really have slides, where slides could be helpful, you can check those in the resources area and generate a video that goes over those almost in lecture format. So yeah, I would really encourage you to look into Google Notebook LM. I honestly think you can get away, as a student, you can get away with the unpaid version. But if you're really trying to study a lot and don't want daily usage limits, you might consider investing in the pro version. Okay, well, that's it for today's video. I'm going to keep going over Google Notebook LM in the future, and I'll show you demonstrations of it. But in the meantime, just make sure to like this or subscribe for more related content, and just comment with any questions you have about using AI in learning. So yeah, I'll see you next time.